All right, guys, welcome back. Part two. We're going to kick it off here with my co-host matchup. Benny, you took on Andy Solar Greco this week. And, we talked about about this matchup where you were concerned that this was another trap matchup for you, where Andy was going to work his tail off to try to bump you down in the standings. And you took it to him. You absolutely took it to him. You get a 14-6 win here. Close categories, you win by 2 steals, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 saves, 2 home runs given up by a pitcher, and 1 relief appearance. Andy wins by 2 wins, and you guys tied in triples with a big fat goose egg. On your bench this week, I'm not going to count Sunday because you took out all of your players on Sunday. But otherwise, you went 10 for 34. That's a 294 batting average. 5 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, 7 walks, 6 strikeouts. None of it plays unless you play all of those strikeouts, and that would have lost you that category. It actually ends up helping you because benching those guys on Sunday certainly plays there. Because if you had 5 strikeouts in your lineup, we're talking about a different score here. So
yeah, it's a good point, Joe. I feel like it just seemed that I was striking out at an alarming pace every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Saturday, where I think we were either tied in strikeouts or I was winning by 1, but I had 10 punch-outs on Saturday. I was like, whoa, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't lose this category.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to play a full lineup. I have a nighttime player with Christian Vasquez. Don't know if he's starting or not. I can wait on that. Let me play my guys that I know draw walks. Joey Votto, I'm going to play. I'm going to play Carlos Santana. I'm going to steer away from Kevin Newman. He didn't strike out. He's my one guy basically on Saturday that didn't strike out. I think he's kind of due for one.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up hitting a double on my bench that was needed, right? Not according to the final score, but at the time, I think I was only up by 2 doubles going into Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, how do I win strikeouts while also possibly winning walks and winning doubles? The only thing I can do is play a short lineup with my favorite guys that draw walks and hopefully don't strike out as much. And the strategy ends up paying off.
Yeah, you end up getting 3 walks. He only gets 1. You win it by 2. You guys were tied coming in. The guys you played, every single one of them struck out at least once. And you ended up with 7 strikeouts on the day. The thing is, Andy played a full lineup and only had 6, and that's pretty dangerous. So if you play if you play Kevin Newman, that's 2 more strikeouts, and you end up tying that category. So kudos to you for benching the guys you did and playing it the way you did. Didn't make a whole lot of moves this week, Benji. The only thing you did was add Colin Moran on, what was that, Tuesday, and he went 0 for 4 with a...
Great. Well, 0 for 7 or whatever.
Yeah, he went 0 for 4 with a strikeout and an error the day you picked him up. I guess he went 0 for 3 after that. So just a rough guy to pick up. But you did pick up Justin...
That was off an 11-game hitting, Joe. That was off an 11-game hitting streak.
Yeah.
And you tell me that's on Tuesday. That's when I'm still sweating about the bye. Nothing's locked up yet. I'm only 6.5 out going into that final 6.5 out going into the final week, and I need a win.
Absolutely.
And that was a really bad pickup at the time. When you think about trying to stream a hitter at the most important time, for it to go so disastrously, like an 0 for 7, I'm just relieved that after a couple of very bad offensive days that I had this week, because there were some bad ones, I managed to have a pretty solid batting average in spite of that.
Absolutely. You hit over 300. Your on-base percentage was up over 360. That'll play every single week. The one pickup I do want to highlight is Justin Wilson on Wednesday. He gets into the game for you, what was that, on Sunday, and gives you the relief appearance you need?
Oh, I picked him up earlier than that, Joe. I picked him up, I think it was Wednesday.
Yeah, you picked him up on Wednesday, yes.
Right. So the thought process there is Mickey Callaway's a schmuck. You should have had Justin Wilson in that game on Tuesday. Why he's not in before Avilan or Edwin Diaz, we can get on that later in this matchup because my opponent has them. This is a logical time to play Justin Wilson. Mickey doesn't is getting screamed at over, Twitter, every social media and general media area possible. And at the same time, I'm thinking, well, if he didn't use him today, Justin Wilson's going to come in the game on Wednesday. And I just stuck with him because I knew that Mickey has his hands cuffed, that at this point he has no margin for error, and he's got to play Justin Wilson as much as possible because everyone knows that aside from Lugo, Justin Wilson is the best reliever on the team.
Exactly.
So I stuck with him, and he got me the relief appearances needed for me to go 22-0 in that stat this year.
Yeah, he gives you 3 relief appearances over 4 days. Gives you what you need to get that win. 22-0 in a category. That's unreal. Nobody even gets you a tie there. That's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's just hard work, man. It really does. It's the difference with me being in a bye situation and not.
Yeah.
But that's just. I really think it's just good foresight on pitchers that were going to be playing that day based on the pattern that the manager of that particular baseball team uses. So I kind of just went with that, and then I noticed, I would look at how many pitches a guy throws, and maybe he'd come in the second day in a row. So that worked a couple of times. A couple of times when I did win that stat, I won it by 1 or I won it by 2. So it was close a lot of times, and I played to my opponent, and it ended up working out. So I will say, man, I think my managing was pretty solid this week.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And you played to the matchup. Andy, to his credit, went 4 for 24 on the bench. That's a 167 batting average. A double, 4 walks, and 8 strikeouts. None of that plays. He only made 2 roster moves. In fact, all he did was drop 3 guys, Ian Happ, John Birdie, and Kyle Tucker. Doesn't make any additions to the team. Doesn't, try to go after a reliever late in the week to try to mitigate that category for you. If I'm honest, Andy kind of, I don't want to say he let us down this week because that's really tough to say. But over the last, 3 weeks or so, he's made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 moves since August the 12th. That's a month. It doesn't look like he's been incredibly active over the last few weeks. I don't know if he's got anything going on. It is what it is.
He's a busy guy. He's got a kid, but I do think at some point when he realized his season was over, the effort slowed down. He'd still check his team.
Yes.
The benching of Trevor Bauer, was it on Tuesday or Wednesday? That was intentional. I don't want to touch Bauer. I said, okay, that makes sense. I hope you get your 37 somewhere else.
Yeah.
Jason will vouch for me that at around, I think it was like around 6 or 6:30, we have a group text, me, Jason, and Andy, and I said, yo, man, check your team. Get these guys in. I don't want to win this way,
Right.
And I've always been that way, I never want to win that way. I want someone to compete against me. I don't want any easy road. But then when I saw the Trevor Bauer thing, he even said, that's intentional. I'm not going to do that against you. And I said, that's fair.
Yeah.
I just want you to make sure because I don't want you to miss your minimum. I do not want to win that way.
Yeah, and the start was bad. The Trevor Bauer start was bad.
Right. So it was an educated play.
Yeah.
So his head was in the right place, but like you said, I think over the last month there's that realization you're not going anywhere, and it doesn't become as important, in your life. So that was that.
Right.
On my side, Joe, in the pitching, I just gotta tip my cap to the 2 guys that I started. Tanaka on Monday, while you and I were having a conversation on this podcast, Tanaka was pitching. He gave up a home run, but he pitched pretty solid.
Yep.
And then I'm thinking on shit, man, I just need one more good start. And if this guy Mike Fulton David screws me right now, I'm going to be in this bracket with you guys. This guy cannot screw me. And I waited until basically 5 minutes before first pitch until I decided I'm going to throw the Braves starter. It really wasn't easy for me because, Joe, he had just pitched decently in Toronto. So now he's playing against Toronto at home. So a lot of times I've noticed, being just a fan of baseball, if a guy pitches well against a team, the next start they typically have his number, or vice versa. If he gets shelled by a team in the next start, he kind of figures out some of the holes that some of the lineup has. So in this case, it really was a last-minute thing to think, it's still a National League game. He gets to throw to a pitcher, and just I gotta hope for the best that he has this team's number. And fortunately, he pitched well enough, man. He pitched really well.
Yeah.
And the difference between that gave me such length in innings and a good ERA. And I could just do my bullpen thing to get my 37.
Yeah. I think you're also forgetting about the start Miles Mikolas gave you on the 6th, the 5 innings, 7 strikeouts in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I watched that game. Holy moly, that was stressful to watch. He did pitch really well, though.
Yeah.
Got into a lot of trouble. Walked a lot of guys. I felt like there was always guys on base, but got the right pitch when he needed it.
Yeah. Let's have a talk for a minute. Wrap up Andy's season before we get to key players, though. How did Andy do head to head?
Okay, so Andy head to head. Well, first let me tell you that his ERA on the season was 4.42.
Not good.
Just to give you some perspective, that was 12, 13, 11th.
Okay.
For the pitching on that side, however, 11-11 in innings pitched, 12-6 in wins, 11-8 in losses, got the one complete game, 10-8 in saves, 5-14 in home runs given up, 8-14 in walks given up, 14-8 in strikeouts, 9-13 in ERA, 13-9 in WHIP, 9-13 in RAP. So sort of towards the middle, feels like nothing too bad. The hitting
was
that
bad.
Might be a different story.
That was bad.
Okay, 10-12 in runs, 10-12, 12-9 in doubles, 5-7 in triples, 6-15 in home runs, 10-11 in RBIs, 12-7 in stolen bases, 3-19 in walks, 9-13 in strikeouts, 6-10 in errors with 6 ties, 8-14 in batting average, 6-16 in on-base percentage. So the way I see it, 3-19 in walks, 8-14 in batting average, and 6-16 in on-base percentage. Those stick out to me.
Yeah.
Even the 9-13 in strikeouts. Just the fact that he would go toe-to-toe with his opponent and not get on base and just strike out instead, not even make contact.
Yeah, his average was 3rd from the bottom overall. His on-base percentage was worst in the league, and he had the fewest walks in the league with 400.
What was his total on base?
327.
Yeah.
Not very good. Not very good at all.
So what did he do on his bench this week?
He went 4 for 24, a double, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts. It's a 176 batting average. There wasn't a whole lot there. Having only 4 hits on your bench, there's just not enough there to have any kind of impact. When we look at Andy's draft, you look at the top 3 guys: Trey Turner, Justin Verlander, Anthony Rendon. All 3 of those guys have one thing in common. You know what that is?
No.
He traded them. He traded Trey Turner to you. He traded Justin Verlander to me, and he traded Anthony Rendon to Jason. What do all 3 of those guys have?
Trey Turner I got from Jason.
Okay, so he traded Turner and Rendon to Jason, and Verlander to me. But the guys who end up with those 3 guys, they all have one thing in common.
They're all in the playoffs.
Exactly. From there, it falls off a bit. Edwin Diaz was his fourth round pick. Terrible. Jesus Aguilar at number 5, just as bad.
Yeah.
Zach Wheeler, okay, decent number 2, I suppose.
Not a 6-rounder.
Not a 6-rounder. He was a really big hype guy coming into the year because of the second half he had last year. Jose Leclerc, had an okay season, but much better recently than the first part of the season. David Peralta's been injured. Nelson Cruz was a great 9th round pick. I'll give him Nelson Cruz. Nomar Mazara has had a really up and down season. Jose Quintana had a good year. But that guy wasn't on his team. Billy Hamilton.
That was in the trade to Jason.
Exactly. Billy Hamilton was terrible. Alex Reyes never played. Francisco Cervelli, he dropped. Lourdes Gurriel has been injured. Jerry's Familia has been just as bad as Edwin Diaz. Ryan Braun is not on his team anymore. Sung-Hwan Oh is awful. Kike Hernandez is a nice utility player, and in the 19th round, he's really versatile, but I don't think he held on to him. Mike Zunino was terrible. Mike Minor, great pick. Great pick from Mike Minor. He dropped him way too soon and was on Jimmy's team. Mike Fiers, that's a guy he dropped as well, and if I remember correctly, was picked up for the no-hitter by Mike Haber? Sherman. David Hernandez.
Stayed on his team throughout.
Yeah. David Hernandez, awful. Michael Fulmer missed the whole season with injury, and Trevor Cahill was bad. Like,
yeah, this seems like maybe the worst draft of our league.
It looks that way. It looks that way when you look at both the draft itself. Because don't get me wrong, Turner, Verlander, and Rendon, that's a really solid top 3 when you look at what those guys did.
And you could also argue Edwin Diaz in the 4th round is fine.
Yeah. Coming into this year after he leads the league in saves last year, has a breakout season, absolutely. But
yeah, Wheeler also.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah. On paper, it looked great in March. By the time April rolled around, he had already traded off Turner and Rendon. By the time the season's done, Verlander and Leclerc are gone. That's 4 of his top 7 picks. And if you add in Jesus Aguilar that he dropped, there's 5 of his top 7 picks gone. And the only guys left on his team are Wheeler and Diaz. And Diaz is awful.
I wonder why Minor was let go so quickly.
Let's find out. We'll take a look at when he was dropped.
Maybe he just pitched badly one start, and that was enough.
Let's see. He was dropped on March the 29th. He was added by James McCloskey on April 9th for 1 start, and then picked up off of waivers by Jason on April the 14th. He dropped him on the 23rd, and Jimmy's had him since April the 25th. So we have to look at his game log and see what happened, where everything lines up. Back in April, so March the 29th, he was dropped by Andy here.
Had he even pitched yet?
Yes, he pitched 1 game at home against Chicago, the Cubs, 4 2/3, 6 earned, 2 homers, 3 walks, and a strikeout, an 11.57 ERA.
And off he went into the waiver wire abyss.
Exactly. James McCloskey picks him up on the 9th. He gets 7 innings. Now, in between that, he had pitched 7 innings of shutout ball against Houston. On the 9th, McCloskey picks him up, gets 7 innings, 2 earned, 5 strikeouts. 5 strikeouts? Yeah, 5 strikeouts, 2 homers, a 380, and gets a good start. James McCloskey throws him back onto the waiver wire. He figures, well, that's a great start. Thank you very much. Jason picks him up off of waivers on the 14th. And all that guy does is go and throw a complete game shutout against the Angels with 7 strikeouts. And that's really the interesting drop there, is he dropped him after the 23rd. He had a 6-inning, 4 earned run performance in Oakland. So he drops him the next day after that, and Jimmy grabs him, and he's off to the races with him.
Yeah. All right, so now that we know about Mike Minor, let's get to the matchup.
All right. Yeah, I mean, key players this week. For you, offensively, I'm going to give credit where it's due to Victor Reyes. 440 average, 464 on base, a run, 5 doubles, 2 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. The 5 doubles is huge, Benji. Absolutely enormous. Trey Turner.
I can't let go of this guy right
now.
No. I want to, sort of. I guess I can't.
No, you can't let this guy go right now. He's been red hot. He's batting at the top of the Detroit Tigers' awful offense. But, he's producing. He's absolutely producing. Hitting over 300 at this point. Trey Turner, 400 average and on base, 5 runs, 3 more doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 steals, 8 strikeouts you don't like. But again, the doubles and the steals play. And Joey Votto, I'm going to give credit where that's due. A 368 average, a 520 on base percentage. Finally, this guy comes to play for you, in one of the most important weeks. 4 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, 6 big walks, 3 strikeouts. Does get you an error, but you don't lose errors, so we'll gloss over that. Anybody else offensively you want to highlight?
Yeah, I wanted to throw on Christian Vasquez. He was excellent, probably like 0 for 10
Yeah.
with a strikeout. That was a pickup for me. I mean, two of my pickups for hitters, between him and Colin Moron, I'm like just getting killed. I cannot believe that I still bat 303 when those guys were basically, I want to say like 0 for 15 between the two of them, something like that.
Yeah. Looks like 0 for 16, as a matter of fact.
Great.
Yep. Pitching wise for you though, let's hit it where it is. It's Ian Kennedy again. 3 relief appearances, 2 saves, 2 strikeouts, 3 innings, a win. So every time Ian Kennedy got into the game, he either gave you a save or got you a win. I mean, you can't ask for anything more from that guy. Does have a 3 ERA and a 1.33 WHIP, but the win and the 2 saves are huge. You end up winning saves by 2. And that's your guy. Mike Foltynewicz, you hit on 5 innings, a win, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, nothing earned, a 1 WHIP. And I'll give credit where it's due to Joakim Soria. 3 relief appearances, 2 2/3, a walk, 2 strikeouts, an 0.75 WHIP. He, Justin Wilson, and Sean Newcomb all gave you 3 relief appearances, and along with Ian Kennedy. And you needed every single one of them, man.
Yeah, no, the bullpen was just huge. You look through it, just 2 2/3 from Lorenzen, 2 2/3 from Justin Wilson, 2 2/3 from Joakim Soria. Like you said, 3 from Ian Kennedy, 3 from Lugo, 3 from Newcomb. They just pile up in there, man. A couple of them didn't even give up a run. So I needed every one of them basically because it came down to the night game with Tanaka. I had 36 2/3 innings going into that night game with Tanaka. That's crazy, man. And that's playing with fire.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I didn't mean for it to go like that. I knew I wanted to pinch myself to the 37. I didn't know that I was going to cut it that close, Joe. I'm just lucky that Tanaka doesn't all of a sudden get scratched or, like you said, the game gets rained out, something like that. And then I'm just in the bracket with you guys. I don't get the bye, but I think I just played it just well enough. Let the bullpen do what it's done for me all season long, and that's get saves and get clean relief appearances. And that's how I worked this matchup. I knew what my matchup was against Andy. I wasn't going to win home runs. I think I ended up leaving 3 home runs on the bench. So it doesn't matter because I lost by 4. So I kind of just played in the areas that for a minute I was trying to just catch him in runs in the weekend. I think I was only down by 3. But then, and I got a few just by playing leadoff hitters. That was my strategy. And I tried to play guys that are at the top of the lineup. But it didn't work. A lot of them just struck out, got a couple of 0 for 4s in there, maybe a run or 2, but wasn't going to catch him in those main ones, the runs, the home runs, the RBIs. Sure enough, those are the only 3 offensive categories that I lost.
Yep.
I had to play for the other things that my team does. They draw walks. They get on base. They don't get a lot of errors. I usually win in strikeouts. So I think my best strategy was just knowing what my opponent's strengths are and knowing what my strengths and weaknesses are. And that's what I did. I just worked it out that way.
Yeah. For Andy this week, you said it. He won runs, homers, and RBIs. So we'll highlight guys that gave him all of those. Corey Seager's one of them. 167 average, 200 on base. Ugly. 4 runs, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Matt Olson, 348 average, 444 on base, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And finally, Willie Calhoun, 273 average, 333 on base, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. Pitching wise, again, it's a trio of categories: innings, wins, and strikeouts for him. So we go to his players. Alex Young, 8 innings, a win, 12 strikeouts, a walk, an 0.38 WHIP. That start came again in Cincinnati. I thought they were going to go and send him out for the ninth. He was at about 93 pitches, and like what Arizona's trying to get to the wild card. Like, this is a great statement win from a young kid on a young team. They ended up not doing it because his place in the lineup came up, and the game was still fairly close. It was only 2-0 at that point, so they needed the at-bat, but still a great start from him. Chris Bassett, 6 innings, a win, 11 strikeouts, a 3 ERA, a 133 whip. That start comes against Detroit at home. Huge game there. And finally, Zach Wheeler, 5 innings, a win, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 180 ERA, and a 180 whip. That start comes, was that the day before or the day after the meltdown?
After.
Okay, so he rights the ship for us and gives us a solid start for the Mets.
Yeah.
You know, we end up taking 2 out of 3, but the season's over. It doesn't matter. You know, Andy,
Wait, what did I do on the bench again?
With or without Sunday, because, you know, I only counted everything but Sunday because you purposely dropped out your roster. You only had 1 homer other than Sunday. So without Sunday, it was 10 for 34, a 294, 5 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, 7 walks, and 6 strikeouts.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. With that, unless you've got something else, we can jump to our next matchup, which is going to be, I think, other than Frank giving it to James McCloskey, I think this is the spoiler of the week, man. It's going to be Nick Homan taking on Chris Levy. They end up in a 10-10 tie, man. And this was one of those matchups that I kept watching day after day because this started out really one-sided in Nick's favor, and Chris fought his way back, but Nick counterpunched on Sunday. So, close category. They end up in a 10-10 tie. Close categories this week. Chris wins by a triple and a stolen base. Nick wins by 2 doubles, a homer, 6 ticks on the batting average, and a complete game we'll get to. They tied in errors and wins. For Chris on his bench, very, very minimal. 1 for 7 with an RBI, 3 strikeouts, and an error. The error is key to have on the bench on Sunday. That comes from Mauricio Dubon, the new second baseman of the Giants. He ended up picking him up as well that day and did not play him. And he ends up erroring, which would have been catastrophic. His moves this week, made a lot of them. Some good, some bad. Picked up Martin Perez for a good start, picked up Pablo Lopez for an okay start, and then picked up Tyler Mahle on Friday, with a bad start. I talked to Chris, and I know you did as well. And coming into Sunday, Chris was feeling like he overmanaged this early in the week to try to mitigate this hole he dug himself, because by Tuesday it was 12-5, and I'm sure he was feeling the pinch, feeling a bit panicked, and put a bunch of guys into his roster, into his lineup that he ended up dropping on Thursday. Guys like Jake Bowers, Mike Ford, Seth Brown, Yimi Garcia, and Alex Wood. All 5 of those guys come onto his roster and get dropped in the middle of the week to retool the entire periphery of his lineup and stream a couple of pitchers. It helped, but he just doesn't get there. And going into Saturday, man, he was sitting in the 6th spot. So to lose 2 categories, get 2 flipped on him on Sunday, that cost him his season.
Yeah, it was tough seeing how close on base percentage and batting average was through the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering if it was going to be that Nick takes both those categories, or that Chris takes both those categories, or are they going to trade 1 for 1? And I kind of felt like, since those are the swing categories, that Chris was going to have to win 3 out of 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it comes down to, because he only wins 2 out of 4 of the swing categories.
Yep.
Doubles, he was down by 2 in doubles, and I think he was down. Oh no, I think was he down by 1 or down by 2 in doubles? And I think he was down by 2 in home runs. Whatever it was, I think Chris just needed to have a better extra base hitting day than Nick. So, do you have those numbers?
What happened on Sunday? I do.
Yeah.
So Chris went 5 for 22. That's a 227 batting average, 5 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Nick went
Home run, right?
1 home run. Only 1 home run.
A double and a home run.
A double and a home run. Nick went 9 for 36. That's a 250 average, 6 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. So he basically matched what Chris was looking for, right? The doubles buries Chris. The homers keeps it where it is with Chris 1 behind. Walks doesn't matter. Strikeouts doesn't matter. ERA.
No, it's really just doubles, home runs, batting average, and on base.
Right.
That's really where.
On the offensive side, because there is one huge thing that happened on Sunday as well that really swung this thing.
Oh my God.
Let's go to.
Terrible. That's heartbreaking. Alcantara was a late pickup, wasn't he?
He was streamed that day.
Oh my God.
Oh no, he wasn't. I'm sorry. I'll take that back. I take that back.
Oh, okay. Jeez. You didn't tell me that anybody could have had this guy.
Yeah, hang on. I'll find out when he was picked up. But let's go to Nick's bench. 9 for 37. That's a 243 average. 4 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts, and 2 errors. So the 2 stolen bases definitely play. That's all from Joey Wendell on Tuesday. He went 1 for 3 with 2 steals on the bench, and Elvis Andrus 0 for 3 with a strikeout at shortstop. If he makes that play, this is even worse for Chris. The 2 errors, those came on Monday, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, they came from Luis Urias, who he ended up dropping anyway the next day. So he had no intention of playing him. Moves this week, again, nothing to write home about. He did pick up Joey Wendell the day before that 2-steal game. He dropped Delino DeShields for him, so that was his steal guy, and he doesn't get him into the lineup on the right day, which is disappointing. As for Alcantara was picked up by Nick on August the 28th, so a week ago. And he was a waiver claim. I remember him sitting out there, and I'm thinking in my head going, if he clears waivers, I'll take him. But I do not want to waste my waiver claim on this guy. As it was, he was picked up for a 6-inning start against Cincinnati, and then a 7-inning start again in Pittsburgh. Neither of those were good. So it was within reason that Nick could have dropped this guy after 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, and like 4 earned runs in Pittsburgh. He doesn't. And all this guy does is go out against Kansas City at home, complete game shutout, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, 0.67 whip. That win ties the wins category and gives Nick the complete game category, makes it 10-10, and sends Chris into the consolation bracket. Catastrophic start in Chris's eyes, I'm sure.
Yeah, just a tough beat. You can look at that, but there were opportunities to not even make this matter. Brandon Nimmo was picked up on Monday and used on Monday, has a nice day from him, and then on Tuesday was just turned away basically. Yep. And Chris's mentality was logical. Listen, Jackie Bradley's been doing it for me since May when he picked him up. Well, you got to stick to your guys that got you this far. Unfortunately, this is the time to stick with Nimmo because he hit a home run on Tuesday.
Yep.
He actually had a big game in that game that they lost on Tuesday. And if he collects all those Nimmo stats, well, he's in, man, because he wins batting average probably.
Yep. And Nimmo is the guy that I burn my waiver claim on because, look, I feel like that's the type of guy that's going to get on base, and that's the type of guy who's going to draw a lot of walks, and you need that type of guy in your lineup, especially in the playoffs.
Especially now with the Mets, kind of just desperate to win every game. I can see him doing whatever he can to get on base. He's going to be patient. He's going to foul off balls. He's going to strike out a lot for you if you're playing Joe, though, because he's still swinging at that slider in the dirt a lot. Aside from that, though, So, yeah, and, he'll get aggressive, and sometimes he runs into a bad pitch. So he'll, I don't know what he's good for 7 days. Last year I had him pretty solid on base percentage, but when those strikeouts pile up, he's not even worth it, in my opinion.
No, I agree there. It's lucky enough for me, and I'm fortunate enough that I'm running 4 outfielders out there. He's going to kind of platoon with Oscar Mercado in right field for now. Let's go over Nick's season, put a bow on it, and I'll go over his draft, and then we can do the same for Chris here before I jump to key players.
Okay.
If you've got it in front of you.
Well, as far as ERA goes, he's sort of in the middle there at a 4.26. Just starts that second half of our group. As far as the pitching categories, sorry, was on the wrong thing for a minute. Here we go. Innings pitched, he was 11-11. Wins, he was 3-13. Losses, 8-12. Complete games, 3-0.
Hey.
Saves, 8-10. Home runs, 10-11. Walks given up, 11-11. Ks, 11-10. ERA, 9.13. Whip, 5-17. And relief appearances, 6-15. He was either at 500 or under 500
or bad
for every single one of these, except strikeouts, and he was only 11-10 strikeouts.
That was bad.
So you can just look at that line right there and say he did not compete against his opponents pitching-wise. He was overmatched pitching basically every single week against whoever he was playing. They knew how to play against him, how to beat him in innings, how to beat him in wins, how to make him lose more games. Let him strike out whoever he wants. He's going to have a terrible ERA, and he's going to have a terrible whip compared to yours. As far as the hitting stats, a little bit better. 14-8 in runs, 9-13 in doubles, 4-11 in triples, 11-10 in home runs, 12-9 in RBIs, 7-12 in stolen bases, 12-9 in walks, 11-10 in strikeouts by a batter, 9-10 in errors, 9-13 in batting average, 11-11 on base percentage. So a little bit better, Joe, but still not really dominating in anything in particular.
No, and if we look at his draft,
runs
is great. Runs is great, and I'm sure we can find where that is. But if we look at his draft, he starts out with Jake DeGrom at at 8th overall, and I was kind of intrigued by that, and I think you were as well, that we see Jake DeGrom go that high. He does have a great season. Then goes with his hitters of Chris Bryant, Rhys Hoskins, George Springer, and Eddie Rosario. Springer missed time. Rhys Hoskins has been bad, man. Like, other than the fact that he walks a lot, he's just been bad. Like, 236 batting average, does get the homers and the RBI numbers, but like, you expect your top 3 hitters to be guys who are gonna hit a lot better than 236. After that, he goes for another pitcher there with Luis Severino, who has not pitched all season. Back-to-back closers of Wade Davis and Ken Giles. Wade Davis has been bad. Yasiel Puig. Shane Bieber was a great pick in the 10th round. He loses Andrew McCutchen for the season in the 11th round. John Gray was up and down a lot in the 12th round. Andrews was okay in the 13th. AJ Minter was bad in the 14th. DJ LeMahieu was a huge addition in the 15th. Colin McHugh was nothing. Francisco Mejia was bad. Carlos Rodon was hurt. Craig Stammen didn't stay on his roster. Marcus Stroman he traded away. Freddie Peralta was bad. Tony Watson was meh. Manny Margot he dropped. Miguel Sano missed time. And Franmil Reyes might be the best 25th round pick. But like, at the end of the day, this is a lot of guys who strike out a ton. Franmil Reyes.
This wasn't a good draft.
No,
either.
This was a bad draft.
This draft was better. What was worse, this one or Ant?
On paper, if you're going into the season, I like Andy's better because of his top 3. Going Turner, Verlander, and Rendon versus DeGrom, Bryant, and Hoskins. I like Andy's better. Granted, Andy traded away 2 of those pieces in the first 2 weeks, and that's a whole different argument. But to see this roster, look, I hated the fact that he took George Springer one pick before me, and I ended up with Tommy Pham. At the end of the day, I think I like Tommy Pham better.
Yeah, played more games, and they're solid with the batting.
And don't get me wrong, Springer has 31 homers, 82 RBIs, 83 runs scored. Tommy Pham's a 20-20 guy, so it really depends on what you're constructing your roster for.
Right.
And that shows by the fact that he's 7-12 in steals, and where's he at totals wise? About 10th. So, decent season from Nick. Competitive most weeks. Just disappointing to see, and the draft is the reason why. Going over to Chris's team, let's take a look at his head-to-heads.
All right. So, firstly, as far as his overall ERA, it was really good. 3.99. Take that all day.
Yep.
And I want to throw in that his batting average was. Damn, you have the highest batting average at 279. His batting average was 264. It was kind of towards the bottom. There's a couple other guys, 264. There's 263 in there. 257 in the lowest is Frank at 255. Unbelievably, 257, that overall batting average. Without looking, who do you think that belongs to, the second to last?
Unfortunately, I'm looking at it right now, so I know it's Bobby.
Oh, all right, so never mind. Well, spoiler, it's Bobby.
Yeah.
Playoff team with a 257 batting average overall. Just goes to show, all you got to do is beat against your opponents. It doesn't really matter what you're doing there.
Right.
Okay, so starting with innings pitched, Chris was 14-8. Wins, he was 9-5. Losses, 8-12. Complete games, 4-4 and 14. So 4 wins, 4 losses in that complete games. You can almost say it hurt him as much as it helped him, that stat, right, Joe?
Yeah, especially this week where he loses complete games to Nick in the final day of the regular season in fantasy baseball.
Season,
yeah.
But, just as well, he won it 4 times. So it's almost like, it's funny to say it, but, it's a wash.
Yeah.
Space, he was pretty good, 13-5 with 4 ties. 11 home runs given up, 11-10. 1 tie. Walks given up 10-11 with 1 tie. So Nosey was just kind of playing by the matchup. I noticed there was a lot of Sundays where he would sit the guys late and just say, let me take walks or let me take home runs and ensure that I win that one. Strikeouts, he was 15-7. ERA 12-10. Whip 12-10. And relief appearances 8-12. So, pretty solid.
Yeah, decent enough.
Nothing extreme except for the saves that he's 13-5, and nothing that he's really getting crushed in. So it's basically exactly where you'd expect him to be in the standings, holding serve basically around 500, little over, little under. With the hitting, 13-9 in runs, doubles 11-9, triples 8-5 with 9 ties, home runs 12-9, RBIs 10-11 with 1 tie. Stolen bases, that he wasn't really fast this year, 5-13 with 4 ties. Walks 8-12 with 2 ties. Strikeouts, he didn't strike out that much. 16-5 against his opponents with 1 tie. Errors 10-8 with 4 ties. Pretty solid defensively. Batting average 9-13. That'll suck. And on base percentage 10-12. That'll suck. So as much as I'd like that he, bashed the ball a lot, 12-9 home runs, 11-9 doubles, 13-9 in runs, that was all solid. It made a lot of contact and strike out, just wasn't getting on base enough against his opponents, wasn't hitting enough against his opponents. I guess this is maybe where you look at and say, well, maybe you just needed 1 or 2 better hitters to get him in.
Yeah, and that again goes back to the draft. He starts off with a great pair of hitters in Jose Altuve and Trevor Story. Backs it up with a pair of starters in Steven Strasburg and David Price, and then gets Robinson Cano, who you're thinking is going to be a 300 hitter and hit like 20, 25 homers. He gets hurt. A lot. Josh Hader and Corey Knebel, he goes back to back. We knew about Knebel's injury before this draft pick, so that is a terrible draft pick. But then follows it up with Alex Colomé, another closer. So he does have a pair of good closers there. Gets Michael Brantley, a fantastic hitter in the 9th round. Ender Inciarte, bad season in the 10th round. Ross Stripling, I don't think he had a rotation spot at that point, so it was an interesting pick there. Jesse Winker has been a bit of a disappointment. He's hit 269 with 16 homers. I don't know if he plays every day, though, in that outfield. Julie Chassin has been god-awful. Jackie Bradley Jr. was okay for him. Maikel Franco had a great April and then kind of was shit. Willy Adames was dropped and then got traded around the league. Ryan Zimmerman wasn't very good. Eduardo Escobar was a great pick in the 18th round. Hirano, Baez, relievers, they bounced around the league. Michael Wacha was bad. Brian Anderson, I love. 22nd round pick, great pick there. Austin Barnes, okay. Zach Eflin, great pick there. Did get a couple of complete games. And Albert Pujols finishes out his draft in the 25th round. I don't hate this draft. There's a couple of there's a couple of, oh wow, that probably hurt. The Corey Knebel in the 7th round when picks around him are like Joey Gallo went in the 7th round. What else went in the 7th round around there? So Corey Knebel, Rick Porcello, Joey Gallo, Kyle Hendricks, AJ Pollock, Jose Leclerc, Clayton Kershaw went in that round. It was a hit or miss round for all of us, and if you hit, you did well. What it boils down to is we like this team. There were a couple of rough patches there, and I think it's kind of indicative of the fact that he's the first guy out. He's the first guy out of the playoffs.
It's a shame, man. I know he's very disappointed. He felt like we talked about how he kind of just jumped the gun a little early in the week and made some plays that backfired. And it's a shame because he was such a hard-working, active manager for 22 weeks. Took an 18-0 loss in week 2 and didn't stop fighting. He was at one point the hottest team in our league. Cruz, I think he won 6 weeks of maybe 5 or 7 out of 9, something crazy, where he had just an awesome streak to just, handle what happened in week 2. And then he even beat Mike Haber that second time around. He benched David Price in the night game to cement it, avoiding walking too many guys that would have lost that category. He's a great manager, just an awesome manager. Just ran into the wrong opponent. He just didn't hit on that final week the way he needed to. Let's get into the key players so we can just figure it out.
All right, key players this week. For Chris, we'll hit Jose Altuve, 318, 400 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple. The triple is key. It's the only one of the matchup. 2 RBIs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Aristides Aquino, that rookie that he picked up, man. 192 average and on base. You don't like that. But a run, two doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs. The steal is what's important here. 8 strikeouts and an error. He won steals by 1. And he got one from...
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but that batting average doesn't help him. He would have been better off tying that category and winning batting average.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jake Bowers is also a guy who gave him the steal, and he didn't get a hit.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, all the guys that didn't really hit, doesn't matter with the steal. He needed to win the swing category.
Yeah. Well, this guy gave him one of those swing categories. David Fletcher, 304 average, 429 on base percentage, 5 runs, an RBI, 5 walks, did not strike out. Strong work from him. If you add in, Trevor Story's 280, he also gave him a steal there. So it's rough to pick and choose here on who to highlight. He only hit 228 for the week. 313 on base percentage, won't play most weeks, and it was just a rough offensive week for him. Pitching wise, we'll give it to Archie Bradley, 3 saves and 3 relief appearances, 2 2/3, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 3.38 ERA and a 3 WHIP. You don't like that, but he ran away with the saves category and the relief appearances category. I'm also going to give it to Josh Hader, 3 innings, 3 2/3 innings, 3 relief appearances. Another guy that every time he got into the game, it was either a win or a save because he got a win and 2 saves, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts over 3 2/3. That's 11 outs he got, and 8 of them were by strikeout. Nothing earned, 0.27 whip. And finally, I'm going to give Jay Happ the credit that he deserves for this week. Where the hell is he? 6 1/3, a win, a walk, 7 strikeouts, nothing earned, and 0.47 whip. That start was in Boston. He has not given up a run in his last 2 starts over 12 innings. Just a shame that he could not get enough to get into the playoffs because I think this is a team that has every chance to win that consolation bracket, Benji.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, man. Times where I kind of feel badly that we lock these teams and don't let them make adds and drops, but there's just so many reasons why I think they need to be. It's also a shame because if this guy makes the playoffs, it might be one of those guys that kind of crash the playoff party, make a real splash, and go to the finals.
Yeah.
So, definitely a shame because the skill of the manager is so great. I mean, he's been so talented. The pickup of was a Giolito.
Yeah.
He ran with that all year. That was enormous. So give the dude a lot of credit for the work he did all season long. It's a shame how it ends.
Yeah.
It really is. And we
Absolutely.
knew it was going to be a heartbreaker for 2 guys. Didn't think it was going to come down to be this damn close.
Yeah. For Nick this week, we're going to highlight Franmil Reyes, 296 average, 367 on base, 6 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts you don't like. But at the end of the day, you know, he wins the average category, wins homers and RBIs, and Franmil Reyes is certainly a reason why. Rhys Hoskins I hit on earlier as well. 179 average is ugly. 250 on base percentage is not good. 4 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts. It's 23 strikeouts from 2 guys, but doubles, runs, homers, RBIs. Those are 4 categories that Nick took down this week. Finally, George Springer, 308 average, 357 on base, 4 runs, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Pitching-wise for him, I would be remiss if I didn't hit on Sandy Alcantara. 16 innings, a win, a complete game, a homer, 6 walks, 15 strikeouts, a 2.25 ERA, and 0.81 whip. Obviously, the complete game is the key here to sending Chris home. It's so unfortunate, but at the end of the day, this is what you run into, and this is, you know, why complete games is, like you've said all season, pulling that lever and getting 3 cherries.
Yeah, that's what it is, and that's kind of what also catapulted Chris a couple of weeks. You know, he did get a couple of complete games out of Giolito that got him wins or tied him wins and won complete games.
Yep.
And put him in a better position. So you go to the well, it helps you, and sometimes you run into it as well.
Exactly.
Gets it against you.
Yep.
I think it was, I want to say 2016, I ran into 3 or 4 complete games in 4 straight weeks. Like, I lost at that category 4 straight weeks in 1 year. And I was just like, really? Like, why am I always playing against a team that gets a complete game?
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. And I didn't make the playoffs in 2016. And I don't think that's the only reason why, but that's part of it. And that's, I mean, you and I are on different sides of the argument with complete games. I still think it's a fun stat. I still think it's exciting. I do think it's a luck stat. I totally understand where you're coming from with the range short. It completely changes the story possibly, and also is not as legitimate. So definitely something that needs to be reevaluated, and I guess we'll find out what happens.
Just to put a bow on that bit of the conversation, complete games.
Sure.
Do you know who has the most in the league this year?
I would think it was Chris.
I just tied him last week. So we both have 5 on the season. You know what the record is for a season, Benji?
For a team to have a certain amount
of complete games over an entire season. How many do you think?
And this is only recorded since 2011?
Yes, 2011.
8.
28.
A team at 28 28 complete games one year?
28 complete games by Matt B., known as Reynolds Wrap, in 2011.
Matt Green.
James Shields threw 11 complete games in 2011. Clayton Kershaw threw 5, Johnny Cueto threw 3, Jeremy Guthrie threw 2, Jason Vargas threw 4, and Anibal Sanchez threw 3.
That is an insane number.
Yes.
It just shows how the game has changed so much.
And isn't that my argument? That the game has changed here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That your complete games argument is so legitimate. The quality starts one. I think you've only helped defend my argument with some of the research you've done, actually.
We could do that another time, but yes,
Yeah. Let's look. Putting a bow on this one. Two great managers. I would say, just because Chris has been with us since 2014, for him to finally be right there and get his first playoff appearance, and then just going to have to wait another year. But maybe when he finally gets in, it's just going to make it that much more special. I will say, Chris, I'm happy in a way that I benched Sammy Watkins in my fantasy football league because he got like 47 points on my bench, and my opponent is Chris this week. So he's the commissioner of that league, Joe.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just saying, like, I feel so badly that, like, not that I want to lose in fantasy football. Like, every game and every week is important in fantasy football, just like it is in fantasy baseball. If not, probably more important in football, because you don't have a lot. But I'm happy for him if he can take down that win, because this is a heartbreaking defeat on such a hard-fought season all year.
Absolutely. Chris has been, you know what? He's been the comeback story of the year, especially starting off as bad as he did. I think he started off like 14 and 30 something to start the year, and has dug himself all the way back out. So, hats off to him.
Yeah, and what? 28 games over 500, 29 over 500.
Yeah. So that's almost a 50-game swing. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's almost a 50-game swing.
Joe, if you win by 1 every week, then you go 22 over 500.
Yep.
I think we'd have to go back to the standings to find out, like, what's the lowest over 500 you could be and still make the playoffs. But it seems like 22 over 500 should get you in. And he went 29 over 500, and that wasn't enough to get him in. So it just means that there were just quite a few bad teams this year. A lot of teams that were under 500, and just a lot of dominance from the teams at the top, because 31 over 500 was the mark to get you in.
Yeah. If we can just go back to my magic number of 225 that I've been saying all season, Chris hit 228, Jimmy hit 229, and they're not in.
Yeah. So your 225 was not enough.
No. But
it's really not. I don't think it's the win total, Joe, because like Jimmy was trying to tell, and that's why I wish he had him on, that I think the ties aren't as good as you think. I think they're more like half losses than half wins.
Okay.
I'll get him on at some point, or him and I will get a chance to talk about it more. But I think we're a little off with the scoring. It's more about how many over 500 you are.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right, let's jump to the one matchup we're going to gloss over rather quickly here. James Santangelo and Josh Haber, they go to an 11-7 finish in James's favor. James wins by 2 triples and 2 wins. Josh wins by a loss and a home run given up by a pitcher. They tie in homers, innings pitched, and saves. Neither of them's got a save. For James on the bench, 10 for 59. That's a 169 batting average. 7 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, 15 strikeouts. Kyle Schwarber went off. He sat on his bench. He didn't make a roster move. For Josh Haber, 9 for 55, 164 batting average, 9 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 5 homers, 12 RBIs, a steal, 6 walks, 16 strikeouts. Pick a guy who was on his bench, probably AJ Pollock or Adam Eaton or Kurt Suzuki or Jake Odorizzi or Jonathan Scope or any one of a dozen guys. He also does not make a roster move. Do we want to hit on their head-to-heads, or shall we just...
No.
Okay. Then, all right. Key players this week. For James, Christian Yelich had a good week. Yasmani Grandal had a really strong week. And Marcus Semien has been arguably the hottest shortstop in baseball. Pitching, Colin Poche gave him 4 relief appearances. He won that category. Dakota Hudson gave him a good start, and Tanner Roark gave him 6 2/3 of shutout ball. For Josh, I don't want to hit on a single one of his offensive players. He hit 174 for the fucking week. No. Nobody hit over 250, and Freddie Freeman was the only guy to hit 250. Everybody else hit 214 or under. Fuck that. James Paxton pitched well. Julio Teheran pitched well. And Jake Odorizzi pitched well. Two guys who were traded for J.D. Martinez.
Did Cole Hamels pitch well on his bench the one day that he benched it? Didn't check.
No, 3 1/3 innings, 13.50 ERA.
Oh, that was lucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. These guys pretty much gave up this week. Disappointing to see, but I'm glad it's happening against each other versus anywhere else. I'm sure you feel the same way, Benny.
Yeah, I'm just, disappointed in general with the effort. Josh has a lot more of an excuse. Josh just had a baby. Josh is like, he's always firstly, he works in a restaurant, and he's a manager, operating partner practically. He was up for a new position recently that kind of, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But James, I don't know what the excuse is, because this is my roommate, and I know what he does for a living. Not that it's not, time consuming, but he's also sitting at a computer, and it just, for me, it felt like fantasy baseball was kind of on like his 7th favorite things to do list.
Gotcha.
Where I think a lot of us, we would kind of rank our league as like one of our favorite things that go on in our life every year.
Mm-hmm.
We look forward to our draft. We look forward to the grind of 22 weeks. We look forward to that opportunity to make the playoffs. There's a level of passion that I think is critical for us for this to work.
Mm-hmm.
And through the season, I kind of had to babysit him a little bit, and it wasn't ideal for me.
Listen,
I love James.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I love James. Dear friend of mine, and a smart manager. Just as far as the knowledge of the sport, when he makes a move, how the educated decisions. We talked about how he knows when to bench pitchers. Sometimes that, backfired on him, or decisions to start pitchers. Whatever it may be, every play is played with logic and a rationale to it, and the baseball brain itself is outstanding. The effort, the dedication, and the passion is just a completely different story.
Yeah. I was going to say something else, and I completely forgot. Oh, well, we'll move on. Let's jump to the final matchup here. And again, we were going to have Jimmy on. Jimmy is looks like he's kind of broken up about missing the playoffs this year. This is a guy who was leading the league at one point, and I don't blame him. Oh, that's what I was going to say. There's like 4 or 5 holidays every year that I look forward to. You look forward to Christmas or Hanukkah or that holiday season, Thanksgiving. For me, it's also Big's Draft Day, the 4th of July or All-Star break weekend. And then one of them was just this past Sunday. It's the end of the regular season in the Bigs on top of opening day in football season. That was a fantastic mashup of two great sports, two incredibly important things coming together. The start of the football season and the end of the regular season of fantasy baseball. So going back to what you said about there's just so much passion in this league, I completely agree with you. Big's Draft Day is one of my favorite days. All right, let's go to this matchup. Again, Jimmy was going to be on. We invited him on. He's a little broken up about missing the playoffs this year, and I don't blame him. He led the league for a period of time this year. He's had a really great season, and up until Sunday was in the playoffs and ended up, missing out by a game and a half it looks like. And it's just it's absolutely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking to see. He takes a 10-9 loss this week to Mike Haber. Close categories: 2 saves from Mike, a home run given up by a pitcher, and a strikeout by a pitcher. Jimmy wins by 2 doubles, 2 steals, an error, 3 1/3 innings, and 2 relief appearances. They tied in runs and wins. For Haber this week, 7 for 33 on the bench. That's a .212 batting average. 5 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, a steal, a walk, 8 strikeouts, and an error. The 5 runs plays, the 2 doubles play. Mostly you would have to try to find Paul DeJong into the lineup on Wednesday and Saturday over Justin Turner, or moving Jock Peterson around to get Edwin Encarnacion out of the lineup. At the end of the day, trying to get all of that into your lineup is a lot to ask. So, if you can get a run somewhere, that's the big thing, right? Paul DeJong, 1 for 4 with a run, a double, 2 RBIs, and a steal on the bench on Saturday, while Justin Turner's 0 for 2 with a strikeout at utility. That's the play. That would have, buried Jimmy altogether even before that. Moves this week for Mike. He picks up Tim Melville, the guy I streamed last week against Ari, who shit the bed. He was actually pretty good this week. 5 2/3, a win, 8 strikeouts, a 3.18, and a 124 whip. He also added Anthony Kay, who I remember when I was talking to you, Benny, about him, we were like, hey, he's picking this guy up. I wonder if this is going to backfire, because it's one of those starts that's like really questionable. And it ends up being 5 2/3, 8 strikeouts, a 3.18, and a 124 whip, almost identical to the Melville start, minus the win. I do want to point one thing out, though. You know what those 2 starts have in common?
They're quality starts.
They're not quality starts. They're 1 out away from quality starts apiece.
Oh.
Imagine that if we were playing quality starts and those 2 starts were streamed.
Yeah, that one situation where they're just 1 out away. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure, that every freaking quality start is a win, and you'd have like twice as many quality starts than wins typically. So if you want us to add a hit counter, we can add that stat too, and just see how many hits everybody gets per week.
We could do that.
Yeah, we could. We want to make this league really stupid. Continue your thing.
All right. For Jimmy this week, I'm not going to count Sunday. He did drop out his entire offense. So without Sunday, he went 11 for 40. That's a 275 average. The thing I'm sure he's going to kick himself over is 9 runs on the bench, 3 doubles, an RBI, a steal, 5 walks, and 13 strikeouts. The 9 runs, we can find it just about everywhere. Ben Zobrist is the one that stands out on Thursday. He went 3 for 3 with 3 runs and 2 walks, and Colton Wong was 1 for 4 at second base. That's probably the big play that he might want back. Unfortunately, he turned around the next day and played Ben Zobrist in left, and Shin-Soo Choo, I always have problems with that guy's name, went 2 for 5 with a run, a double, an RBI, and a strikeout on the bench. Zobrist, 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts in left. There it is. I'm sure he also would love to have played, somebody on Sunday that would have gotten him a run. Gary Sanchez, I believe, got him 1. He would have needed 1 more. Canna, Bregman, Wong, Chu, Kingery all had runs there. I'm sure if he were to choose one player to put in, I'm sure it's Bregman. But again, this is where it's at. His moves this week: 4 streaming starters toward the end of the week. Dylan Bundy, bad start. Jordan Zimmerman, worst start. Austin Voth, not bad. And Mike Leake, good start. Do we want to put a bow on Jimmy's season here, Benny?
Yeah, I would love to, actually. It's so heartbreaking.
It is. It really is.
So, firstly, he got a 267 average. Said that's kind of towards the bottom. Team ERA, he was 4.22. That's basically right in the middle.
Okay.
As far as his pitching stats go, 16 and 6 in innings pitched. We know how hard he worked with that.
Yeah.
And couple that with 17 and 5 in strikeouts.
Yeah.
So very good against his opponents with picking up the pitchers and making sure that he'll at least let those 2 stats help him. 9 and 9 in wins. 6 and 15 in losses. That kind of goes with the innings pitch and the strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to probably surrender some losses as well. 3 and 3 in complete games. 11 and 7 in saves. That's impressive. 5 and 14 in home runs given up, and 8 and 11 walks given up. That goes hand in hand with good streaming starters, trying to get strikeouts. Like we said, 17-5 in strikeouts, 11-11 in ERA, 10-12 in WHIP. Didn't really match up against his opponents pitching wise as far as those go, and 11-8 in relief appearances.
You know, I look at that lineup. I look at that line, and you know, it's vaguely similar to mine. If you look at a lot of the stats there.
Yeah. You guys had a similar strategy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it backfires.
Right.
But you kind of hope to be over a little more than, at or just over 500 in ERA and WHIP if you're going to do all that.
Right.
Because you're going to lose walks most of the time. You're going to lose home runs giving up. You're going to lose losses most of the time. If you're going to collect innings and strikeouts, you can't also lose ERA or WHIP because
right.
you're just taking two stats and you're trading it for 5.
Right.
So,
you know, at the end of the season, you look at this, and Jimmy finished 5.5 games behind me. I went 13-9 in ERA. He went 11-11. That's 2. I went 16-6 in WHIP. He went 10-12.
Right. No, that's a big difference, man. I mean, when you're just going to be streaming starters just to get those two categories, and the repercussions is that you're going to blow up your ERA and WHIP most of the time. It's typically not worth it, and that's kind of the strategy for me is just get my way to the 37. Forget about innings and strikeouts. It's not worth it for me. So different strategies. Not that this is an incorrect strategy that Jimmy took. It's just that I think a couple of the times it really just it blew up in his face. As far as the offense, 11-9 in runs, 7-13 in doubles. I actually am surprised by that. How far under 500 doubles? Because I thought he was actually better. 8-6 in triples, 12-9 in bombs, 10-12 in RBIs, 9-10 in stolen bases, 17-4 in walks. That's a nice number.
That is a nice number.
10-12 in strikeouts by a batter, 11-8 in errors, pretty solid. 12-10 in batting average, and coupled with his 17-4 walks, is 15-7 in on-base percentage. Definitely better on the offensive side than the pitching side all season. Yeah,
and I guess that shows in his draft, right? So he alternated pitcher and hitter for the first 6 rounds. He goes Bregman, Rizzo, and Gary Sanchez for his hitters, Kluber, Greinke, and Brad Hand for his pitchers. Kluber gets hurt early in the season. That's unfortunate, and he ended up dropping him because I guess he thought that he was going to need the roster spot toward the end of the season. From there, it's A.J. Pollock, Max Muncy, and Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson was great for him. Max Muncy was very good for him, and A.J. Pollock, another injury-plagued season. Jay Happ in round 10. Up and down, Luis Castillo was great for him, though, in round 11. Stephen Piscotty was serviceable. I know he spent a lot of time on my team as well, so I know Jimmy had to have dropped him. Jose Alvarado and Michael Givens, back-end relievers who might get him saves in 13 and 14. Corey Dickerson lost a lot of time, if I'm remembering correctly, and then ended up getting traded. Justin Smoke, power bat, strikes out a lot, low average in round 16. Brad Peacock, not all that great in round 17. Matt Boyd was great for him in round 18 up until about the last month. You know, Boyd has had a really bad August and September, if I can remember correctly. ZRA has jumped from like the high 3s to the mid 4s now over the last few starts. Corbin Burns was supposed to be that kid that was going to be great for Milwaukee. He wasn't. Shin-Soo Choo was a great on base machine. Starlin Castro was okay. Jonathan Lucroy was a disaster. Michael A. Taylor didn't play. Freddie Galvis has been great the last 6 weeks or so, but he hasn't been on his team. And Tanner Roark, another guy who got dropped and ended up on James Santangelo's team. I like this draft. I'm more impressed with what he did to fill out this roster over the season. You know, when you look at this team, he's put together a really strong roster, and you know, to get this close this late in the season, you know,
this is a guy that's never done this before.
Right. You know, Max Kepler, the pickup there is huge. You know, Lance Lynn, Mike Leake, Mike Minor, Zach Greinke and Luis Castillo. We talked a lot about this rotation, and we're like, it doesn't have like that one major top of the line starter, but it's got like 5 guys who are definitely legit number 2s on any other roster. And, with the bullpen, he's been great. My hat's off to Jimmy. He had a great season, and to come up short this close is heartbreaking for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, no other way to say it but heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I know that we had a chance. There was going to be a chance that he would have come on the show today.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked about it beforehand, but I think it was just goes to show that the passion, it only rises with our league, and to go through it for 22 weeks. At the end of the day, if you come up this short, you don't really feel like talking about it.
No.
I asked them, I said, maybe it'd be therapeutic for you, get some closure on the season. At the end of the day, you really didn't lose any. You didn't lose any money. You
Right.
just lost your time.
Yeah.
It was just your time, and you had fun. And his response was, "Yeah, but I did take it serious." And that's all he needed.
And that's all I need to hear.
Man. I don't. Yeah, that says it all. I don't care that I didn't lose a dime. I care because, I worked my ass off, and it's a heartbreaking ending. He didn't say it in those words, but I could just tell that it's just...
Yeah.
When you... Look, in 2013, I missed by just a stat. At about the same amount, me and Mike Sherman just missed out in 2013. Quinn Hushin unbelievably got in the 6th spot. One of his only 2 playoff appearances, and actually... The other one, Joe, that Quinn got was in 2009, and in that first round knocked out Jay, who was going for his 3rd in a row.
Right.
So everything kind of comes back full circle. Anyway,
Right.
When 2013, when I saw myself didn't get in, and Sherman was one step, it wasn't easy. I had to shake it off, though. Hey, it was a good year, and I just came up one move too short. A stolen base that I left on the bench, a home run I left on the bench, and you think about it, and you start playing your mind through the 22 weeks, just one thing throughout the week that could have been done that was so obvious, and that was the difference. So, Jimmy, if you get a chance to listen, just want to thank you for working your ass off. I told you this on the phone yesterday, but I'll just say to the league, this guy is a rookie manager, and he wanted to give it a shot, and I think we're all happy he did, because I think we found something really, really special with this manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Winning his first 5 weeks, 7 of his first 9, 8 of his first 11. This guy was on top of the world. It's unfortunate to see what happened the rest of the way there, but if we and here's the thing, we appreciate so much the effort you put into this, Jimmy. I look at it like this, and when you look at the standings right now, they always give you last week's win-loss in a column right next to games back. You look at 1, 2, and 3 locked up at the top. 4 and 5 was me and Bobby. We did what we were supposed to. We kicked that ass, and we've got 4 and 5. 6, James McCloskey. He was 5 and 13 this week. Every opportunity to fall out, and all it would have taken from either Chris or Jimmy is to go over 500 this week. They go over 500, they're in. Instead, Chris goes 10 and 10, and Jimmy, heartbreakingly, gets stats flipped on him on Sunday, because he was up 11-8 going into Sunday.
Right, and he was up 13-8 at one point on Sunday.
Yeah. And it ends up being 10-9. Just absolutely devastating. Let's do key players. Key players for this matchup for Mike Haber, who won the week. Eugenio Suarez, 750 averaging on base, 2 runs, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, and an error. He only played a couple of games, but holy shit did he play. 3 for 5, 3 for 5, 3 for 4. Unbelievable this week. Mookie Betts gave him a good week as well. 500, a run. What the hell am I looking at? I'm only looking at Sunday. What the fuck is wrong with me? Okay, try this again. Take 2. Eugenio Suarez. 500 on base, 4 runs, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 7 strikeouts, and an error. Mookie Betts, 391, 462 on base percentage, 5 runs, a double, 4 homers, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. And finally, Jock Peterson, 533 average, 563 on base, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, a walk, 3 strikeouts. Offensively, Mike Haber came to play. 20 homers, 57 RBIs, 40 runs scored. And Jimmy, for the most part, kept pace with him. 40 runs scored. The homers and RBIs he wasn't going to get. But the rest of the offensive categories, he either won or was incredibly close to winning. Pitching-wise for Mike, we're going to give it to Emilio Pagan again. 4 innings, 3 saves, 4 relief appearances, a .5 whip. He won saves by 2, thankfully to Emilio Pagan. Jack Flaherty has been the hottest pitcher since the All-Star break. 16 more innings, 2 wins, 18 strikeouts, 2 walks, a .50 whip. This guy has, 11 starts now I'm looking at just on his game log, and the most he's given up is 2 earned runs in those 11 starts. He's absolutely ridiculous. This is the type of pitcher you will ride into the playoffs. I am scared to death of that pitcher going up against me in the playoffs. You talk about the law of averages, right? I don't know.
Sure.
This is an unbelievable stretch he's on. Just an absolutely unbelievable stretch he is currently on, where he's gotten his ERA all the way down to 2.99 from, we'll call it 4.90 on July 2nd. His ERA was almost 5 the 4th of July. It's down under 3 now.
Yeah, and his team is really thankful for it, too.
Yeah. Finally, we'll hit Mike Soroka. 11 innings, a win, a loss, 5 homers you don't like, 13 strikeouts, 3 walks, a bad ERA and a bad whip. But when you look at it, I'm looking at the strikeouts that he won by 1, and getting 13 strikeouts from Soroka is huge.
100%. And the win. The win was critical.
Yeah, absolutely. That tied the wins category. For Jimmy, Tim Anderson has been a great piece for him all season. 414 average and on base, 9 runs, 4 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 5 strikeouts, and an error. Again, he tied runs and would not have done so without Tim Anderson's 9. Tommy Edman, a guy that I had on my roster, dropped him. He's a utility player for the Cardinals. He's very David Eckstein in this manner. 300 average, 333 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 strikeouts. He ended up winning triples, and Tommy Edman is a reason why. Finally, Alex Bregman, 455 average, 500 on base, 4 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. The steal is big. He wins that stat too. Pitching-wise for Jimmy, let's hit Liam Hendriks. Another incredible pickup by Jimmy this season to get the closer in Oakland when Blake Trinan was demoted. 4 relief appearances, 2 saves, 4 innings, 7 strikeouts. Did not give up a hit or a walk throughout those 4 innings. Mike Minor, another incredible pickup for him this season. 15 1/3, 2 wins, a homer, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, a 1.17 ERA, an 0.85 whip. His start comes on Sunday against Baltimore. He's hoping to get a strikeout, and he only gets 3 in that 8 innings. If he gets 5, 6, 7, anything that he's used to getting from Mike Minor, this is a different story. Minor gives him a great start, but only 3 strikeouts, and I'm sure that's devastating for him as well. Finally,
right, since all you needed was 2 more to get in the playoffs.
Exactly. Finally, I'll hit Tyler Duffy, 4 relief appearances, 3 1/3 innings, 9 strikeouts, nothing earned, an 0.90 whip. Again, he wins relief appearances, 9 strikeouts over 3 1/3 innings. That's 10 outs that he got, and 9 of them were by strikeout. That's a start. It's incredible. To put a bow...
What happened on Sunday that just changed completely?
So, Mike comes back and ties runs. They were tied in runs going in. And Mike gets 9 runs. And Jimmy only has that one guy going. He was down 8 runs coming into this day. He gets 9, and Jimmy only gets the 1. He ties that stat. He also flips innings and strikeouts. The strikeouts was huge because Mike got 24 strikeouts on 23 innings. Jimmy, 8 strikeouts on 16 1/3 innings.
Wait, I thought Jimmy won innings though.
Jimmy did win innings. My apologies. So he did not flip the innings. He definitely flipped strikeouts.
The home runs given up, I think that was one thing. The strikeouts, the batting average, and the runs.
So the batting average definitely plays. Mike hit 450 with a 463 on Sunday. 9 runs, 4 doubles, 3 homers, 13 RBIs. The 2 steals he got, a walk, 5 strikeouts, and an error. The error he loses. The average he wins. The runs he ties. The wins he gets, but Jimmy also got a win, so that's mitigated. The home runs, Mike does not lose. He gave up 5 homers, but Jimmy gave up 2, and it was 2 too many. He gave up 1 too many homers. If he does not give up the Mike Minor solo homer in that outing, they tie at 14 homers, and Jimmy's probably in the playoffs. The strikeouts is huge.
I think you still needed one more thing to happen.
The strikeouts.
I mean, it's just a little bit closer.
Yeah, the strikeouts. Did Mike stream a player? Is that what I'm seeing here? No, he didn't even stream a pitcher or did he? Was it Derek Rodriguez?
Derek Rodriguez was definitely available to get picked up.
Yeah, he streamed Derek Rodriguez, 4 2/3, a loss, 2 homers, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Derek Rodriguez had 1 more strikeout than Mike Minor. That's your difference.
Yeah, he needed more strikeouts from these guys.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It's just heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking, man.
My God. So if those 2 home runs are instead strikeouts,
Mm-hmm.
even by a landslide, he's probably playing you in the first round.
Exactly.
Wow.
Mike Minor gave up a homer, and Mike Leake gave up a homer in his matchup with Cincinnati.
Yeah. And these guys pitched pretty damn well.
Yeah, they did. They pitched great.
Win innings
Yeah, he pitched to a 2.20 ERA that day. He played it right. It just doesn't fall for him. It's disappointing.
Maybe a reliever throughout the week if he had picked up another. I mean, he maxed out kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
So I guess there wasn't a chance. And I guess his pickups, I don't know much about them, but I'm guessing maybe there was a point where maybe a pitcher would have been a better decision than a hitter.
I mean, Jimmy went with pitchers Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Bundy, Zimmerman, Voth, Leake. Those were his final 4 pickups. And if you add in Caleb Ferguson, who gave him, I don't know what, but he picked up.
He didn't pitch yesterday. He needed him to come in yesterday, and he didn't.
Yeah. Ferguson gave him one relief appearance, 2/3 of an inning, struck out both guys. That gave him everything he could have.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say, man, and let me try to pull up the text, because I did get a text message sent from him.
Mm.
I want to read it to you, so if you can hear me well enough while I look at it.
Yep.
Having just had a closed-door meeting with team officials, and we would like to return next season to the Bugs, regardless of today's outcome, provided there's an invitation, of course. And yes, the Bugs is actually the big, but, autocorrect and such.
I might be so bold not being the commissioner, but Jimmy, I feel like there is absolutely a place for you here next season.
Oh my God, I didn't say that exactly, but I will say, you kidding me? You want back in, you got it, man.
Yeah.
This is yours. Jimmy's not going anywhere unless he wants to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still having fun.
Yeah.
You retire and you give up when you're not having fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's only his sophomore year next year, and I'm really delighted to know that he's coming back. Even with this heartbreaking defeat, he knew win or lose going into Sunday. This message came in before everything happened on Sunday. So he made the commitment to say, listen, I'm going to be back next year, and that's great to hear.
Great to hear. Welcome back, Jimmy. We're happy to have you. Benji, You know what time it is?
It's time for best and worst.
It is time for best and worst. Give me your best start of the week there, buddy.
All right, I'll give you Garrett Cole for Bobby on Sunday. Went 8 innings for the win. Gave up that solo shot, but come on, 15 punch-outs, a 1.13 ERA, a .13 WHIP. Forget about it. Huge for Bobby at the most critical time in his freaking fantasy season. Just amazing. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, is this guy the AL Cy Young? Like, I really feel like this guy is it.
It's Verlander, right?
Yeah, it's 2.73 ERA, 281 strikeouts, and 184 in the third innings. It's down to him and Verlander. But if it were me and I had it, and I don't have a vote, but I'd love to have one, I'm giving it to Cole this season, man. He was amazing this year. I'm going to give the best start to Sandy Alcantara, who, for Nick, knocks Chris out of the playoffs. Complete game shutout, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, and 0.67 WHIP. Shout outs to Jack Flaherty, Max Fried, and Alex Young, who also gave great performances for their respective owners. Who's your best offensive player this year or this week?
You know, there was somebody that we passed by when we were doing matches that had something like a 6+ on base percentage. I forget who it was, but I'm focusing on the spoiler team of the week, and even though he didn't knock him out of the playoffs, Frank did have a great offensive week from a lot of his guys. One being Austin Meadows, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 3 dingers, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts to the tune of a .526 batting average and a .591 on base.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to Bobby's team for this one. You said it. Somebody had a 6+ on base percentage. How about Ketel Marte? 600 average, right. 636 on base percentage. 5 runs, a double, a triple, 3 bombs, 12 ribeye steaks, 2 walks, and only 2 strikeouts on the week. You know, this guy, again, probably finishes 4th or 5th in the MVP race in the NL this year, but he definitely deserves to at least be in the conversation. Who's your worst starter of the week there, Benny?
Well, I'm going to give it to Joe Ross. I believe that's the brother of Tyson Ross.
Uh-huh.
On the Washington Nationals against the Mets, I believe it was the first game of the week. You and I were even on the air when it was happening. Joe Ross went 3 2/3 innings, got the loss, gave up a home run. He gave up 3 walks. He got 4 strikeouts, all to the tune of a 17.18 ERA and 3.0 WHIP. And this got you rolling, Joe. This is absolutely like one of the reasons why you're in the playoffs, because you start that way, then you put yourself in such a better position than your opponent.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I'm going to hit 2 of them here, and one of them is Nick, who actually ended up, knocking Chris out of the playoffs, but it certainly wasn't through any help of Wade Miley. Did not record an out, gave up 5 earned runs, a walk, a homer. That is an infinite ERA and an infinite WHIP. I think that's the first time all year we've had that high an ERA and a WHIP, because we don't know how big it is. I'm also going to give one to Jimmy. I'm sure he wants to have this Logan Webb start at St. Louis back. 2 2/3, a loss, 7 earned, a homer, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 23.63 ERA, 3.75 WHIP. Offensively, Benji, who's the worst offensive player this week?
Well, I'm going to go to that same matchup with Frank and James and pick on C.J. Cron, who went 3 for 22, a double, an RBI, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 136 batting average, and a 240 on base percentage. Definitely a good part of the reason why Frank was able to capitalize. However, he did hit a double, which was pretty important. So you can knock on him all you want. The guy may have saved James' season.
Yeah, I've got 3 this week. Chris Levy, another guy whose heart is broken this week. And if he wants to point the finger, he can point the finger right at Dan Vogelback. 0.67 average, 263 on base, run, homer, RBI, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. He wins walks because of it, but he hit 228. He also wants to point the finger at Michael Brantley, who he wouldn't be in this position without Michael Brantley. But when he needed him the most, 136, 200 on base, 2 runs, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. The third one I'll hit on, Jimmy, Probably wants Anthony Rizzo to have a better week. 214. Does have a 429 on base, though. A run, a double. 5 RBIs is helpful. 4 walks is nice, and only 1 strikeout. One more, if I could throw it in there quickly. Hey, Mike Sherman. Manny Machado did not hit 100 this week. 095, 240 on base. 3 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 4 walks. 6 strikeouts, and an error. Benjamin Aloysius Nisman. It is week 22, and it is time to give out our last regular season manager of the week. Who is it?
Well, it's a tough battle between 2 guys that went against each other. Jimmy or Mike Haber. You can pick either one because they really just dueled it out in that last day. Jimmy went with the strategy of benching all of his offensive players and hoping that he can win batting average as a result. And Mike just played him, the right way. Just played the right guys and batted the crap out of the ball, and that's the result, man. So can I give it to both of them and say they co-won this one?
Fair enough. I'll let you do that. I'll allow it.
Yeah, I don't feel it's right to just. I don't want to necessarily take away from what Jimmy did just because he gets the loss and he's out of the playoffs. He really had a strong week. He used the most out of his 13 moves, but I also don't want to discredit Mike for saying, I don't care that you want to go to the playoffs and I'm going to play my butt off, and he did.
Very fair. That was an incredible matchup. I commend you for giving it to both guys. It was certainly one of the best matchups of the year. I am going to give it to a guy who worked his butt off and had to do so in order to get into the playoffs, man. He was in 8th place when this week started and has, in the last 2 weeks, turned his entire season around to get to the promised land. 2nd week in a row. Bobby Russo, you're my manager of the week, man. What an incredible matchup you had against Uncle Barry. Tough manager to go up against, and to triple him up 15-5 to get yourself into the playoffs. My hat's off to you. You're the hottest team right now, and I'm facing you. So I'm going for a 3-peat, buddy, and it starts today. As a matter of fact, I have to text him because, Benjamin, it is 2:30 in the afternoon here on the West Coast. It's about an hour and a half before the first games tip off. Bobby still hasn't set his lineup.
Yeah, something's up. I don't know what's going on here. I hope he's okay, but I know that you don't want to win this way.
Absolutely not.
You want to face the lineup. So let's try to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I want to believe that you're facing a manager that's truly trying to win this week.
Absolutely.
Because I know that if you were facing Jimmy, if you were facing Chris Levy, you're facing a lot of these guys, they would have set this thing, yesterday, for today. After benching all the guys and knowing that you're going to the playoffs, I think he knows that he's in the playoffs, so maybe he doesn't. I
don't know.
So let's figure that all out. Good luck to Jason and James this week.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a hell of a matchup.
Yeah, well.
Nice to see that James already stuck Renfroe in the lineup. I'm kind of surprised he stuck him in the utility because he can move Conforto into center and then put Renfroe in one of the corners.
Right.
The utility spot open in case he wants to use someone in utility, but
I think
his strategy is.
If I'm honest, I think he's waiting to see if Renfroe even plays because Renfroe is not an everyday guy. So if Renfroe doesn't play,
I know that Jason is going to be on top of this thing like, it's a child.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about James. I hope that he is. It's nice to see that he checked it this morning and stuck Renfroe in. So that's already showing me right there that the passion is there, that we're going to have a really good battle with those 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Haber, you and I can celebrate, drink champagne, do whatever we got to do to get ourselves prepared. But for at least a couple of days, we're going to sit back, enjoy some good baseball, watch you guys go toe-to-toe, head-to-head, dismantling your teams just to make it to the next round. It's going to be fun to watch, Joe.
Absolutely, man. Benny, thank you again, as always, for hosting with me. I appreciate it every single week, man.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Yep. And guys, the regular season's over. For 4 of you guys, you don't even have games to play anymore. And for 4 more, you just have to wait a week. For 8 of us, we get to sit back and have a great week of baseball again. It is playoff time, and one guy This guy is coming for 3 in a row. Guys, it's been real. It's been fun. It is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next week.